Imagine a Linux distribution that takes the raw power and flexibility of Gentoo Linux and fuses it with the modern philosophy of immutability, atomic updates, and containerized work. Now imagine that this system isn't just built for developers or enterprise servers, but deliberately engineered for gamers who demand maximum performance and Homelab enthusiasts who crave control, reproducibility, and stability. That's the vision behind matrixOS, a new immutable Gentoo-based distro designed from the ground up with gaming rigs and home data centers in mind. In this video, we're diving deep into what matrixOS is, why it exists, how it works under the hood, and what makes it different from traditional Linux distributions. We'll explore how immutability changes the way you manage your system, how Gentoo's source-based DNA shapes performance and customization, and why this combination is particularly powerful for gaming and home lab scenarios. By the end, you'll understand not just what matrixOS is, but why it could represent a new direction for enthusiast Linux users who want both bleeding-edge control and rock-solid reliability. Let's start with the foundation. Gentoo has long been known as one of the most customizable Linux distributions available. Unlike binary-based distros that ship pre-compiled packages, Gentoo traditionally builds software from source using its portage package manager. This means users can fine-tune compile time options, optimize for specific CPU architectures, strip out unnecessary features, and craft a system that feels tailor-made for their hardware and workflow. For years, Gentoo has been the playground for power users who want to understand every layer of their operating system. However, that flexibility has often come with trade. Traditional Gentoo systems can be time-consuming to set up, complex to maintain, and sometimes fragile if not managed carefully. Rolling updates can occasionally introduce breakage, especially when mixing unstable packages or experimental configurations. While experienced users love this level of control, many gamers and home lab builders want something that feels just as powerful but less prone to accidental This is where matrixOS steps in. Instead of discarding Gentoo's philosophy, it builds on top of it, reimagining how a source-based distribution can be delivered and maintained in 2026. The key innovation is immutability. In matrixOS, the core operating system is built as an immutable image. That means the base system is mounted redundantly during normal operation. You don't manually tinker with system libraries in production. You don't risk breaking your boot environment because of a half-completed update. The core is treated like firmware, stable, atomic, and replaceable as a whole. When updates arrive, they don't trickle in as individual package upgrades that might conflict mid-process. Instead, matrixOS builds a new system image in the background. Once it's ready, you reboot into the new image. If something goes wrong, you roll back instantly to the previous version. This atomic update model dramatically increases reliability, which is especially important for gaming systems that need to just work and home lab servers that might be hosting services for your entire household. But how does a Gentoo-based system become immutable without losing its customizability? The answer lies in how matrixOS separates concerns. The base operating system is generated using Gentoo's build system with carefully curated USC flags, optimized compiler settings, and a defined configuration profile for gaming or home lab roles. Instead of compiling on the user's machine, matrixOS typically provides pre-built, reproducible images generated in a controlled build pipeline. These images retain Gentoo's fine-tuned characteristics, but eliminate the need for every user to compile the world from scratch. This doesn't mean you lose flexibility. On the contrary, matrixOS encourages user customization through containers, overlays, and layered images. Want to run experimental software? Spin it up in a container. Need a custom toolchain for development? Use a development layer that doesn't pollute the base system. For gamers, this means you can install additional tools, mods, launchers, or performance utilities without risking your core OS. For home lab enthusiasts, it means running dozens of services in isolated containers without turning your host into an unmanageable mess. Gaming is one of the primary focus areas of matrixOS, and this shapes many design decisions. Performance is treated as a first-class citizen. The kernel is tuned for low-latency workloads with optional real-time patches for competitive gamers. CPU governors, I/O schedulers, and memory management parameters are configured to minimize stutter and maximize frame consistency. GPU drivers are integrated directly into the immutable image, tested against specific kernel versions to ensure compatibility. Instead of forcing users to manually manage proprietary drivers after every kernel update, matrixOS bundles the appropriate driver stack in each release image. When a new image is published, it includes a validated combination of kernel, graphics drivers, and supporting libraries. This reduces the risk of the dreaded black screen after an update scenario that has haunted many Linux gamers in the past. Another major consideration for gaming is ease of use. While Gentoo traditionally expects users to edit configuration files and understand system internals, matrixOS aims to provide a polished desktop experience out of the box. A pre-configured gaming environment might include a performance-tuned desktop session, a compositor optimized for variable refresh rate displays, and pre-installed gaming. The idea is that you install matrixOS, log in, and start playing without spending days compiling and tweaking. Yet under the surface, the Gentoo heritage remains. Advanced users can still create custom builds of matrixOS images with different USE flags or experimental features. The project might offer a tool that allows you to define your own image profile, selecting specific packages and optimizations, then build a reproducible system image tailored to your needs. This bridges the gap between DIY source-based freedom and modern image-based deployment. Now let's talk about Homelabs. The other core audience for a Homelab is typically a collection of servers, virtual machines, containers, and networking gear that enthusiasts use to experiment, self-host services, or simulate enterprise environments. Stability and reproducibility are critical here. If your DNS server or reverse proxy breaks after a routine update, your entire home network can grind to a halt. Immutability is a perfect fit for this environment. With matrixOS, you can treat your Homelab nodes as cattle rather than pets. Each node runs a defined system image. If you need to upgrade, you deploy a new image. If something goes wrong, you roll back. If a machine fails, you reprovision it from the same image. This model aligns closely with modern DevOps practices, but it's adapted for individual enthusiasts rather than corporate clusters. Containerization is deeply integrated into matrixOS. For this reason, instead of installing services directly onto the host, you deploy them as containers. Web servers, media servers, home automation platforms, game servers all run in isolated environments. The immutable host provides the kernel-based system, while containers handle application-level changes. This separation makes backups simpler, migrations easier, and troubleshooting more straightforward. Security also benefits from this design. A read-on root file system reduces the attack surface. Unauthorized changes to system binaries become much harder. Because updates are image-based and reproducible, you can verify integrity more easily. For Homelab operators exposing services to the internet, this added layer of protection can be invaluable. Another compelling aspect of matrixOS is hardware optimization. Because it is built using Gentoo's compilation model, images can be tailored to specific CPU microarchitectures. Instead of generic binaries compiled for the lowest common denominator, matrixOS can offer variants optimized for modern processors. This matters for gaming performance, but it also impacts Homelab efficiency, where power consumption and performance per watt can be critical. Networking is another area where matrixOS shines for home. With predictable, image-defined configurations, you can standardize firewall rules, VPN setups, and routing behavior across multiple machines. Imagine defining your entire Homelab network stack as version-controlled configuration, building it into your matrixOS image, and deploying it consistently across nodes. This turns your home infrastructure into something closer to a miniature data center. Of course, no system is perfect. Immutability can feel restrictive to users accustomed to editing files directly in the root file system. In matrixOS, persistent changes are made through defined mechanisms, not ad hoc modifications. This requires a mindset shift. Instead of thinking, I'll just install this package directly, you think, should this live in a container or should I create a new image layer? For some users, this structured approach is empowering. For others, it may initially feel limiting. However, for gamers and Homelab builders, though, to target audiences, this trade-off often makes sense. Gamers want consistency. They want to boot their system before a tournament or a streaming session and know it will behave exactly as it did yesterday. Homelab enthusiasts want to experiment boldly but recover quickly. matrixOS positions itself as the best of both worlds. The deep configurability of Gentoo combined with the reliability of an immutable system. It's not trying to compete with beginner-friendly distributions aimed at first-time Linux users. Instead, it targets enthusiasts who understand the value of performance tuning and infrastructure, designed but are tired of babysitting fragile systems. In a broader sense, matrixOS reflects a trend in the Linux ecosystem. Image-based systems, atomic updates, and container-first workflows are becoming more common. What makes matrixOS unique is that it doesn't abandon the source-based philosophy that has defined Gentoo for decades. Instead, it packages that philosophy into a modern, reproducible format. For gamers, this means high-performance, tested driver stacks, and a system that resists accidental breakage. For Homelab enthusiasts, it means immutable hosts, containerized services, and infrastructure that can be versioned and rolled back at will. For both groups, it means a platform that respects their desire for control while shielding them from unnecessary risk. So if you've ever loved the idea of Gentoo but hesitated because of the maintenance overhead, or if you've embraced immutable systems but missed the deep customization of source-based builds, matrixOS might be the distro that bridges that gap. It represents a bold experiment, taking one of the most flexible Linux foundations ever created and reimagining it for a world where reliability, performance, and reproducibility matter more than ever. And that's the story of matrixOS Immutable, Gentoo-based distro built with gaming and Homelabs in mind, blending raw power with modern design, and challenging our assumptions about what a Linux system can be.